WHO's theme is No Hepatitis, Act Now, and it is a call for policymakers, healthcare providers, communities and individuals to take action to scale up prevention, testing and treatment services. Despite the massive burden of 400 million people living with chronic infections, viral hepatitis remains a little-known disease.
Cost of treating hepatitis B and C, I would like Honorable Minister to think to put these drugs in essential drug list. You provide free drugs for TB, for HIV. Look at this, madam. For HIV, 2.1 million people, you give India 1750 crore.
Is his engagement with the issue of hepatitis. May I invite Dr. Jayant Bhavre to tell us more about Mr. Bachchan's association with this issue, please.
And my dear friends, I thank WHO and Ministry of Health for bringing this occasion of Hepatitis Day to India. I think Indian subcontinents definitely deserve that because the burden of various forms of hepatitis is so big. I will not do that. Only thing is hepatitis A and E are basically waterborne, can be prevented by good hygiene. Hepatitis B and C have got a different story to tell. And for that story, one should remember that these are bloodborne diseases, but they are also transmitted from mother to child from the close contacts, what can be called as a horizontal transmission. Awareness among health workers, awareness among mothers, awareness in the family about not discriminating is very important for prevention of that. We have been always talking about hepatitis B, and in this small room that we got here, we got hundreds of people here, but maybe there is a possibility for hepatitis B or C, and you are not even aware of that. WHO and Union Ministry is willing to lend its hand to treat this patient, as you have heard from my learned speakers earlier. The public at large is totally unaware of what is hepatitis B, what is hepatitis C. What you need is a gap which is to be filled up by somebody. You need someone who can go outside this room and can tell the people that, look, whether you got hepatitis A or E or B or C, something which is not only treatable, but which is preventable. We thought that you need someone who has got great presence in Indian mind, or well-known national figure who can, and people respect him immensely. We couldn't think anything better than Mr. Amitabh Bachchan for this role. I have been lucky enough to be associated with him for certain reasons for a long time. I requested him, and Mr. Bachchan wholeheartedly said he will do whatever best is possible for prevention of hepatitis B. He doesn't need any introduction. Say that, Amit ji, please spare some time, give the time to hepatitis B campaign, convince the concerned ministries to put in the efforts and the money to sustain this campaign for a few years to come. Thank you so much.
Honorable Minister of State, Anupriya Patel ji, distinguished guests on the dais, distinguished guests in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, do pardon my voice. I am trying to overcome a viral infection of cold. I want to thank the organizers today for having invited me here today on this very auspicious occasion when we celebrate the 28th of July as Hepatitis Day. There have been many debates and discussions throughout the day, through various forums and through various speakers. The speakers before me, who are more qualified to talk about hepatitis, have given you many statistics, so it will be futile for me to dwell on them again. I'm here today, ladies and gentlemen, to merely reiterate to you that I am absolutely committed to the cause of hepatitis. And if my face and my voice can propagate what we need to do towards removal or at least the detection of this terrible disease, I am there with all the agencies that are now committed to work towards this cause. How this all started has a small story which was hinted upon by Dr. Serene in his very emotional appeal here, when he talked about an example of a porter who was denied a job in the Middle East because of the fact that he was diagnosed with hepatitis B. I raised my finger not just to the fact that I happened to play the role of a porter in one of my films, but in 1982, ironically, for the same film, during the course of an action sequence, I injured myself, and there were many bottles of blood that were required for my recovery, including bottles of blood and platelets. It amounted to almost 60. And we had around 200 donors, and I thanked them for it, because had it not been for their contribution, I may not have been standing here in front of you today. But unfortunately, one of the donors was carrying the Australian antigen hepatitis B virus, which went into my system. From 1982 onwards, I recovered from the terrible accident, and I thank the doctors of Breach Candy Hospital for my recovery. But during the year 2000, and some years into it, through my family doctor, Dr. Barve, through a random test that I went through, he discovered that I had indeed been infected by hepatitis B, and that 75% of my liver had been damaged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you operating on just 25% of my liver. What is known in medical terms is I am a patient of acute cirrhosis of the liver, something that is normally associated with people and alcohol, but I am a non-alcoholic. I just felt that if I was able to propagate to the masses of this country through what I had been through personally, then it would be a very noble cause that I was taking up. I also took up the cause of tuberculosis because, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm also a tuberculosis survivor. In the year 2000, I was, quite by accident and by Dr. Barve, diagnosed for tuberculosis in my spine. And we went through a course of medication and I recovered. I want to reiterate here and say strongly that people that are unaware of having themselves diagnosed regularly, religiously, may perhaps, as Dr. Barve had just mentioned in his speech, be carrying a virus which they are unaware of. Diabetes is another ailment that I work for. Diabetes, hepatitis, they are all silent killers. We are unaware of their presence in our body. And before we know it, it is too late for any kind of action to be taken. My appeal to all of you, and through the various programs that I hope will be designed by the World Health Organization, by the Government of India, I shall be able to propagate this fact that it is most important that all of us become aware of the fact that we need to be going in for some kind of diagnosis, some kind of tests, to at least know what our body contains, and if we are unfortunate enough to have this virus within us, then to assure you that a treatment is there, it can be done, and you can be cured. There are wondrous drugs that are coming out now, and I was speaking to our dear friends here who were talking to me about some modern drugs that have been now brought out in Switzerland, where the repair to the liver and perhaps repair to the disease is possible. I'm very happy to hear that. I hope that I shall be getting some of those doses myself because I need it. And I also want to say that there are various programs that the government does, and I'm happy that there are very capable and able representatives of the Government of India here with us today. We need to have a very concerted program, ma'am, to put the program of hepatitis on a more definitive basis. There are lots of budgets, and there has been talk before me on how much money needs to be put. Dr. Serene put it very ably, comparing the amount of budgets required for roads and for using just 1% of that for hepatitis. But really, we need to have a designated amount of budget put across towards hepatitis so that we can all work towards its eradication. The government of Maharashtra has a wonderful scheme where they help and work along with what is commonly known as the Anganwadi. These are housewives that help in the delivery process when women are pregnant and about to deliver. I think it would be a wonderful idea, and if there are people from the government of Maharashtra here today, if they can include this process of how to educate these Anganwadis in hepatitis and give them the opportunity that when they give and help a lady at their birth to also administer to them or teach them or educate them at least that they must have the vaccination done which can prevent their child from getting hepatitis. There are many schemes of the Government of India which I notice and which I work for, whether it be Swachh Bharat, whether it be Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And I notice that there's some kind of a similarity in a lot of what happens. Dr. Prasad mentioned about Swachh Bharat, and as you know, which the speakers before me have educated you, that hepatitis A and E are waterborne viruses, and they can be prevented provided we have a clean atmosphere. And that goes along with what Swachh Bharat means. Education, and education particularly for the Beti, is maintained, and so have many other great philosophers of life, that when you educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a woman, you educate an entire family. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where I feel we must bring our attention to, that all our women need to be educated so that they can impart that education at the time, let us say, for example, with the Anganwadi or the housewife in our villages and in our rural areas that need this attention most importantly. I have very little else to say, except that I look forward to the time and energy and my dedication and my devotion to this very worthy cause. I am here for you any time of the day or night, in whatever way you wish for me to represent this cause. I have dedicated myself to several other causes, and whatever you will designate for me, I shall be most willing to do that. I wish to thank all the organizers today, and I wish to say that may there be many such occasions when we can all meet and discuss and leave our impressions, because many a times people come and talk and go away. Perhaps that implies for me as well. I will stand in front of a camera and I will recite a few lines which are hepatitis promotional and go away. But I want to reiterate to the World Health Organization and to the Government of India and to all the associations that are going to be working, that please pay attention to that worker that will go out and propagate this cause right down to the common man. He's the most important person. I say this because when we worked for polio, and its eradication, and the fact that we achieved this great victory in making India polio-free, it was that worker who went down to the smallest villages, to the interiors, and it is they whom we need to acknowledge and respect and honor. And they are the people that are going to work for you, sir and ma'am, that will help in propagating this wonderful cause. Please look after them. They are the people that will actually go and work in the fields, and we need to honor them. If ever there is any occasion when they need to be honored and you need my presence there, I shall be more than welcome to be there. Thank you so much.
Dignitaries on the dais, Shri C.V. Dharma Rao ji, Shri N.S. Kang, Dr. Jagdish Prasad, Dr. Poonam Khetrapal, the very legendary and the heartthrob of millions of Indians, including me, Shri Amitabh Bachchan ji, Dr. Hank Beckedham, WHO representative to India, Dr. Gottfried, Director HIV and Hepatitis WHO headquarters, Dr. Serene, our guests from UK, Egypt, and Thailand, technical experts, representatives from the states and community, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar to all of you. Hello, Mumbai. It gives me great pleasure to be here on the occasion of the World Hepatitis Day 2016. And it's indeed an honor that we are celebrating the Global Hepatitis Day this year in India. My senior, the Union Health Minister, Shri J.P. Nadda ji, had deeply desired to be here with us today, but for some unforeseen circumstances, he's been unable to join us. But he sent his good wishes through me for all of us. As you're all aware, viral hepatitis affects millions of people worldwide and kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. Almost 1.4 million cases of hepatitis A happen worldwide annually. There are nearly 24 crore cases of chronic hepatitis B globally and almost 13 to 15 crore cases of chronic hepatitis C globally. Every year, nearly 6.8 lakh people die from the complications of chronic hepatitis B infection, and 7 lakh people globally die each year from hepatitis C-related liver disease. India also has a huge burden of viral hepatitis and represents approximately 40% of the hepatitis B virus carriers and 20% of the hepatitis C virus carriers in the Southeast Asia region. The modes of spread of different types of hepatitis are well known, and we do have a vaccine for the prevention of hepatitis A and B, but lack of awareness among the general population on ways to prevent it is the key reason for the spread of this infection. And virtually everybody here has appealed today for raising awareness about all the various forms of hepatitis, which is the need of the hour. As is well known, hepatitis A spreads mainly through unsafe water or food, inadequate sanitation, and poor personal hygiene. In this regard, I would like to emphasize that our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has launched the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which would go a long way to reduce the outbreaks of hepatitis A in sanitation conditions. It's also well known that chronic hepatitis B and C are responsible for liver cirrhosis and liver cancer that has huge implications in terms of treating morbidity associated with them, as well as the loss of productive years of life. Modern studies have also shown that it is cost-effective to treat those with chronic hepatitis B and C. The Government of India realizes the importance of hepatitis prevention and is aware that India being endemic for hepatitis B, the infection is mainly transmitted from mother to infant at birth and through infected syringes. Hence, through the ministry's flagship program of Mission Indradhanush, the government plans to vaccinate all children up to the age of 2 years by 2020 for 7 diseases, including hepatitis B vaccine. In phase 1, we have successfully immunized 7.6 million children across the nation. And the work has been taken on war footing mode. One important step that's required in this direction is to increase the vaccination for hepatitis B from current 45% to cover 90% by 2020 for effective prevention of hepatitis B. The level and understanding of hepatitis C virus prevalence in the country is based on the estimates from small studies. These estimates indicate a broad range of 6 to 12 million people with hepatitis C, and the most affected population groups include the intravenous drug users who share the injection equipments, those with exposure to infected blood products, which is more common in patients on hemodialysis, people with thalassemia or hemophilia, and organ transplants, and finally, infections due to unsafe injection practices in the healthcare settings. In the absence of any vaccine for hepatitis C, prevention remains the mainstay of our response to this problem. And the main strategies for its prevention are ensuring safe blood, adopting safe injection practices, and giving injections only when essential, and among the intravenous drug users, ensuring that they do not share the injecting equipments. I'm happy to announce that we have taken in-principle decision on an ambitious task of providing safe injections across the country using reuse prevention syringes, which will prevent transmission of hepatitis B and C, as well as many other infections. In this regard, the WHO is supporting us on a study project in Punjab, I would like to inform you. Access to adequate, safe, and quality blood and blood products is vital for any healthcare system, which is primarily the responsibility of the government or the National Health Authority of each country. India has 1,126 National AIDS Control Organization, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare supported blood banks out of the total 2,760 blood banks in the country, which forms 40% of the country's blood banks, but they're responsible for meeting 60% blood requirement of the country. 79% of the NACO-supported blood banks are in the public sector, and 21% are in the non-profit sector, such as the NGOs, the charitable trusts, the societies and foundations, etc. Recently, an assessment of the 1,126 NACO-supported blood banks was carried out on a standardized self-assessment questionnaire. On the basis of the responses, 1,101 blood banks were scored on a scale of 0 to 100 based on meeting essential standards for the transfusion services. The assessment report has been released just now and shows that seropositivity of transfusion-transmitted infections among the blood donors in the year 2015 indicates HIV positivity to be 0.14%. Hepatitis C was 0.32%, hepatitis B 0.93%, syphilis 0.18%, and malaria 0.04%. However, there's a huge variation between the states. This assessment exercise is being extended to cover all the remaining blood banks in next 3 months. Based on these reports, efforts will be made to minimize the transmission of hepatitis B and C from the blood. Recent advances have led to the development of new antiviral drugs for hepatitis C, which are more effective, safer, and better tolerated than the existing treatment options. In India, several generic companies have embarked on the production of these drugs at significantly low cost, which provides an opportunity to treat those infected with hepatitis C. And I'm happy to share that many states have on their own taken initiatives for providing hepatitis C treatment. I come to you and see we are a polio-free nation, so I'm glad that now you're happy to propagate this idea of fighting against hepatitis. Will achieve success in getting free of this big trouble for us. The WHO Global Health Sector Strategy on Hepatitis adopted months ago by the World Health Assembly has set very ambitious targets.